When a man stops contacting a woman, something fascinating happens. At first, she might feel relief, a small break from the constant attention, but soon that silence begins to echo louder than any words you've ever spoken to her. This is when the true emotional journey begins, one that reveals more about how she really feels about you than perhaps even she realized. Today, I want to break down exactly what happens in a woman's mind when you suddenly disappear from her life, not out of games or manipulation, but from a place of self-respect and personal boundaries. Because there's a psychological process that unfolds almost like clockwork, and understanding it gives you powerful insight not just into her behavior, but into the dynamics of attraction itself. The first thing that happens when you stop reaching out is often nothing. Absolute silence. This initial phase can be confusing for men because they're expecting some immediate reaction, a text, a call, something to indicate she's noticed. But women are emotional processors. They don't always register change in real time. Instead, they absorb it gradually. During these first few days of silence, she's likely thinking, he's probably just busy, or he'll text tomorrow. She's not worried yet because most men she's interacted with have always returned, always reached out again. The pattern she's familiar with is men pursuing, not men walking away with dignity. So this initial silence doesn't trigger alarm. It's merely registered as a temporary blip. But around day 3 to 7, something shifts. She checks her phone more frequently. She looks at your name in her message list. She might even type something and delete it. This is when the first question enters her mind. Why hasn't he reached out? Not in a panicked way, but more as a curious observation. Women are naturally more attuned to changes in patterns and behaviors. It's an evolutionary trait, the ability to detect subtle shifts in their environment that might signal danger or opportunity. Your silence represents a pattern interruption, and her mind is now actively processing this change. What's important to understand is that during this phase, she's not missing you yet. She's missing the validation and attention you provided. There's a significant difference. She's wondering where her source of validation went, not necessarily where you went as a person. And this distinction matters because it explains what happens next. Around the 2-week mark of your silence, her brain begins the reframing process. The story she tells herself shifts from he's just busy to maybe he's lost interest, or even perhaps he's met someone else. This is when her social media behavior often changes in one of two distinct ways. Some women will post more frequently, happier photos, more social events, maybe even pictures with other men. This isn't random. It's a subconscious attempt to show you and herself that she's fine, thriving even, without your attention. It's the digital equivalent of, look what you're missing. Other women do the opposite. They withdraw from social platforms or post more reflective, thoughtful content. They might share melancholy quotes about relationships or self-discovery. This more introspective approach signals that she's turning inward, processing your absence on a deeper level. Neither reaction is inherently good or bad. They're just different coping mechanisms. What matters is that both are reactions to your silence. Both acknowledge in their own way that your absence has created an emotional response significant enough to alter her behavior. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Around the 1-month mark, if you've maintained your silence with dignity, not out of spite or game playing, but from a genuine place of self-respect, a profound shift occurs in how she perceives you. You transition in her mind from being just another man who desired her to being a man who valued himself more than her validation. And this, gentlemen, is rare. Most men don't make it this far. They break the silence too soon. They react to her social media posts. They find excuses to accidentally run into her. But the man who can maintain his dignified silence for weeks becomes something most women rarely encounter: a question mark rather than an exclamation point. Women are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand or control. It's not manipulation, it's human nature. We value what's scarce, what's unpredictable, what makes us question our assumptions. Your silence makes you all of these things. During this phase, she begins to romanticize your time together. Memory is selective, and in your absence, her mind naturally gravitates toward the positive moments you shared. The way you looked at her across a crowded room, how you laughed together at inside jokes, the comfort of your presence during difficult times, the arguments, the misunderstandings, the reasons why your communication ended. These fade into the background as the positive memories come into sharper focus. This isn't her being dishonest with herself, it's the brain's natural tendency to preserve what feels good and diminish what doesn't. This romanticization process creates emotional momentum. Each positive memory triggers another, creating a cascade effect that builds a compelling narrative in her mind about who you were together. And without fresh evidence to contradict this narrative, because you're not providing any through your silence, this idealized version of your connection grows stronger. Around the 6 to 8 week mark, something profound happens. She stops thinking about the attention you gave her and starts thinking about you as a person. The question shifts from, "Why did he stop contacting me?" to, "Who is he really that he could walk away with such confidence?" This is the moment of true curiosity, not about what she's lost, but about who you are. It's no longer about her, it's about you. And this shift in focus represents a fundamental change in how she perceives the dynamic between you. Now, let's talk about what happens if she decides to reach out, because eventually, many women do. But how they reach out reveals everything about where they are emotionally. If she texts something casual like, "Hey, how have you been?" or "Just saw something that reminded me of you," this is testing the waters. She's curious but not invested. She wants to see if you're still accessible, still available on her terms. If she reaches out with something more vulnerable like, "I miss talking to you," or "I've been thinking about you lately," this indicates deeper reflection. She's not just curious, she's acknowledging an emotional impact. And if she reaches out with, "I think I made a mistake," or "Can we talk about what happened between us?" this represents the fullest acknowledgement of your value. She's not just missing you, she's questioning her own role in losing you. But here's the critical part. Your response to her outreach determines everything that follows. If you respond immediately with enthusiasm and lengthy messages, you undermine the perception of value your silence created. You confirm what she suspected all along, that you were just waiting for her to reach out. Instead, match her energy and investment. If she sends a casual hello, respond casually but warmly without rushing. If she expresses something more vulnerable, acknowledge it respectfully, but maintain your boundaries. The man who responds with measured interest rather than desperate enthusiasm maintains his position of strength. Remember, true attraction isn't built on tricks or games. It's built on genuine value and the perception of that value. Your silence allowed her to discover your value on her own without you having to convince her of it. Don't undermine that discovery by suddenly becoming overeager. Now let's address the elephant in the room. During your period of silence, she may start dating someone else. Many men see this and immediately break their silence out of jealousy or fear of losing her permanently. This is a critical mistake. When a woman begins dating shortly after you've gone silent, it often represents an attempt to fill the emotional space you occupy. It's rarely about finding someone better. It's about finding someone to distract from the discomfort of your absence. These rebound relationships typically follow a predictable pattern. Initial excitement gives way to unconscious comparison. She finds herself measuring this new person against you, not just physically or superficially, but in terms of emotional presence, conversation, how they make her feel. And because this new relationship began as a reaction rather than a genuine connection, these comparisons rarely favor the new person. They're trying to fill your shoes without even knowing what made those shoes fit so well in the first place. If you maintain your dignified silence even during this phase, something remarkable happens. The contrast between you and this new person becomes even more pronounced. Your absence, characterized by confidence and self-respect, often appears stronger than this new person's presence. I've seen countless situations where women end these rebound relationships and reach out to the man who walked away, not because he played games, but because his absence created space for her to recognize what she truly valued about him. Let's also talk about the role of mutual friends during this period of silence. Women often use mutual connections as reconnaissance, asking subtle questions about you. Have you talked to him lately? Is he seeing anyone? Did he mention me at all? These inquiries aren't random. They're attempts to gather intelligence without risking direct vulnerability. And how your mutual friends perceive you during this time matters enormously. So be yourself and be original with women. Subscribe for more content.